This episode of To The Point is sponsored by Tarsus. Tarsus Pharmaceuticals applies proven science and new technology to revolutionize treatment for patients, starting with eye care. Tarsus is advancing its pipeline to address several diseases with high unmet need across a range of therapeutic categories, including eye care, dermatology, and infectious disease prevention. Tarsus is proud to announce that Xdemvy, lotilaner ophthalmic solution 0.25% is available to prescribe.
As much as we've learned about ocular surface disease, there is still so much yet to be discovered. The good news is, this creates a world of opportunity for eye care providers.
The goal of this podcast is to better understand this chronic and complex condition and keep you up to date on the advances being made in its diagnosis and treatment. So let's get to the point. Welcome to another episode of the To The Point podcast. I'm Jackie Garlich, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host Jessilin Quint. Hi, Jessilin. How are you?
Hello, Jackie, and hello to all of our TTP listeners. Coming off of Academy, what a whirlwind.
Man, I feel like I can finally take a deep breath. It is like those meetings are wild.
Are wild, but it's so fun. It's so fun to hear about the latest developments, see colleagues. Even though they're like physically and mentally tiring, I do leave feeling a little bit re-energized at the same time.
I do too. And Jessilin, I don't know if you got to see our guest, but we have a guest today that I did get to see at a cat. Did you see this guest, this surprise guest?
Quickly in passing, but I didn't get to spend as much time with her as I would have wanted. But any time with our guest is a true delight. She is absolutely just fantastic.
I know. Okay, so listeners, we're super pumped to have Dr. Tracy Doll on the show tonight, and I want to tell you a little bit about Tracy. So Tracy is the Director of Ocular Surface Care Services at Sunset Eye Clinic in Beaverton, Oregon, which is blending ocular surface disease therapy with an aesthetic twist. And if you have had the pleasure of listening to Tracy lecture, you know how good of a teacher she is. You can always tell that when someone's lecturing that they are a really good educator. And that is because she spent 15 years teaching at the Pacific University College of Optometry. And it was here that she pioneered one of the first ocular surface dryness centers inside a university. In 2021, she joined Sunset Eye Care and she grew their ocular surface clinic. She is a member of the Intrepid Eye Society, the subcommittee member for TFOS, is on the American Academy of Optometry anterior segment section leadership team, among many other accolades. Tracy, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here with both of you. Hi, Jessilin. Hi, Jackie. Yes, I did get to see you both at Academy. Yes, I saw you and I ran up to you and tapped you on the shoulder and said hi on the way to my next thing. But I definitely will have to make some more time so that we can get together and chat some more at the next, big event. So thank you so much for having me on the podcast today. And I'm just so thrilled to be with two of my favorite ocular disease queens. So thanks for bringing me on.
Aw.
You're so welcome. We're so happy to have you here. I mean, you are such a wealth of information. And as a side note, you're a superhuman. Like you are the best to prepare lectures with. This is such a random quality, but whenever we lecture together, dude, we are so on it. The deadlines, the slides, we're like so good to go. So I love hanging out with you. You're wonderful.
And
She's so good.
too. We do never miss a deadline, and I love listening to you speak. And everyone should come to every lecture you do because there's just little tidbits to come up with. Both of you doing so much for the profession, so much for other doctors, and so much for your patients.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love that.
So Jesselyn and I actually did a lecture together at Academy on naturally on dry eye, but we would like love to pick your brain. Like tell us a little bit about like your clinic, any like favorite treatment modalities that you're using lately. Tell us about you.
Sure. Well, I did move into private practice about 4 years ago. I joined an existing all multi OD practice, and there's actually going to be another doctor that we're bringing on, a new grad. So there's going to be 6 of us total. But I do all things for the ocular surface there. That's all that I do for the clinic. I don't look in the back of the eye unless I have to. I don't do refractions. It's all about the ocular surface. So my favorite pieces of equipment. Wow. Well, I started with a methodology of for picking equipment, something that would calm and something that would express. So my two favorite pieces of equipment that I have right now would be intense pulse light for calming and a method of expression. Right now I'm using radio frequency to do my Boehmian gland expression. So those are my two big pieces of equipment, but I've been able to bring on more as time has passed to offer different modalities to different patients. So that's the mode I'm in right now. I have a personal philosophy, which is clean, calm, and protect. And then if patients are into it, we do the fourth prong, which is beautify. So we hit all of those parts. And I'm talking about because you get people's dry eye to start to go, get a little bit better. And what do they start talking about? Oh, that wrinkle there, that dark spot there. Everyone's always interested to go to the next step because all of a sudden they're not so irritated. They want to go all of the way with their eyes, I would say.
Leading into that beautify, you're exactly right. One thing I remember from learning about you, oh my gosh, like more than 5 years ago, I remember when you were really in the ocular surface and you did a little bit of like self-exploration to figure out like what our patients were experiencing with these aesthetic procedures, to be able to just see it from a patient firsthand, right? And then form relationships with like a last extensionist and to kind of talk about that. And I thought that that was the coolest thing because you really just dove right into that firsthand experience versus maybe a lot of other ocular surface, docs just might know about like what it involves to get a lash tint or a lash lift, but like you went and scouted it out on a firsthand basis. And I always just thought that that was so cool. As you've done that and kind of learned that, have you seen anything from like a firsthand experience to be able to, just kind of tailor different dry eye treatments around that?
Sure. So I have some very good friends who are in the aesthetics and beauty industry. So I tapped them as resources and I went undercover a couple of times to either get treatments myself or to watch them have different procedures like eyelash extensions, for example. So it was really hard when I was watching my good friend getting it. I had to sit on my hands and not point out some different things that I saw that might could use a little bit of cleaning up. Like, might be nice if the esthetician wore gloves or didn't put that iPad up so high so it wasn't constantly rubbing on the, line of marks. But it's cool. But going into the beauty industry, I think the most important thing that I learned was watching the importance of getting a technician that really knows what they're doing. And technicians can't really learn if they don't have a good resource to learn from. So I don't mind talking to professional estheticians. If I get them in as patients, I will have them spread word around their clinic about different products that are safer to use, different practices. The DIY thing at home is where I've seen the most issues when people are trying to do their lash tints from home. This is not something that you DIY in your cousin Susie's basement. This is something you go in with somebody that's highly trained, who knows what they're doing repeatedly. And I talk about different products that are in the marketplace and different ingredients that might be safer choices for sensitive patients.
Like on that same, aesthetic side of that, how do you approach these conversations with patients when the you're treating their dry eye, but there's also this like aesthetic benefit because you do very much pay attention to that for patients, and it's a lovely side effect of some of these therapies that we're doing. Do you really address that with the patient when you're treating them for dry eye, or you just sort of not say anything and let them discover that on their own when they get some improvement?
Sure. Well, if you have any sort of therapy that improves the physical way that people look, you should put that up as a selling point, you know? So I list them as happy side effects. I say, this is what we're going for. Our primary objective with intense pulse light is to lower the inflammation in your skin and your eyelids, to boost good, healthy skin cell turnover so that you don't have these inflammatory issues, kill ourselves some Demodex mites in the process. But as a side effect, what you're going to notice is a smoother skin tone, a lot less redness. And a lot of my patients find out that they don't have to use heavy makeup as much anymore because their even skin tone is what's showing through. So you'll probably save yourself a little bit of money on cosmetics. Everyone loves that. Everyone loves to hear that not only looking good is part of the process of actually feeling good too. And I remind people that healthy eyes feel healthy. You shouldn't have to think about them all the time. So we know that when we look our best, that makes us feel a lot better. I mean, that's not the cure for clinical depression, but it does tend to elevate the mood and make you feel really good, right? So it's definitely a selling point that's helped turn the minds of patients who may be, you know, considering whether or not they want to do advanced therapy or participate or invest in it.
So true. It's exactly right. When you look good, you feel good too, and you know all the implications, emotional, physical, right? That come with that. When you were in academia setting, did you encounter kind of this aesthetic aspect as much as in like a private practice, or have you seen it show up a little bit more in private practice, or what does that look like kind of through your transition of kind of different modalities?
Sure. Well, I start off in the university setting. And so, you know, obviously in the university setting, the focus there is going to be on, you know, medical management, medical management, medical management. So, but there's definitely not any problem with choosing and utilizing and implementing technologies that treat the condition and still have a happy aesthetic side effect. You can also recommend, you know, products. You may not be able to sell them out of a university setting, but that shouldn't stop anybody from being able to recommend different types of cleaner makeup brands or ingredients to look for or ingredients to avoid. It's all part of the picture. So I've been talking about beauty and aesthetics from the very beginning because all of it matters. A lot of the products that we put in and around our eyes in the United States aren't that well regulated when it comes to cosmetics. I mean, if you take a look at it, it's only between like 11 to 13 products that are banned in the United States versus 1,300 in the UK. You can put almost anything into a jar, a bottle, or a tube here and sell it. So it's important to educate our patients on the practices they might be doing that might actually be leading to dry eye and complicating the issue.
So one thing I wanted to ask you is, you know, on the academia side of this, you've seen two, I think, very well, I don't know, you can tell me, just different practice modalities, working in academia, working with students versus working in your private practice. Is there, you know, maybe some of our listeners might be wanting to maybe explore an academia side. Is there, or vice versa? Do you have you know, things that you liked about academia, things that you're liking about, you know, private practice that you weren't able to get there? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I got my start in academia because I had a very supportive staff and leadership that had wanted to invest in the future and see where the profession was going. So having leadership on your side is very important. So if you're trying to implement a dry program in a university, you definitely have to have the ability to write a business plan. You definitely have to have the ability to be able to show your who's ever making the decisions the scientific background for the particular modalities that you are choosing. Can you show that this is strong scientifically? And do you have are there other people out there that have demonstrated ahead of you that some of these things can actually be able to implement into a university setting? I started off by doing my own elective course where I worked with the industry to help with university regulations to self-fund that course. So all the materials were provided by industry at that point. And I would allow industry reps to come in and do a little talk about it before I would then go teach the class. So working with industry was a really good way for me to get things into the university as far as the, you know, certain regulations go. So I self-funded an elective course, which is how I got started. And then demonstrating to students. Also, students get excited about new technologies, new modalities, things that they can specialize in, things that they can use to pay down their student loans, right? So generating a buzz amongst the students about technology, equipment. I know there are a couple of schools right now that have student dry eye clubs, actually. So that's useful. So if you can get the students to start asking the administration for it, then that helps a lot too. So I started a buzz. I came in the first year, brought in some of the technology with some of the reps. I started with osmolarity and thermal pulsation expression. That was my dry eye technology lab. And as new technologies came to the marketplace, we'd bring them in, try them out. And then if we're demonstrating them in the classroom setting, it's good to have a university clinic to be able for students to join then. So I had fourth year interns that would rotate through a specialty service that they had to apply for. And then some of the residents used to come over from one of the local VA health systems, and they would work with me for a while. So that's how I got residents and interns started at the school.
Wow, talk about being a trailblazer, right? I mean, to really kind of come in and just create something from scratch that wasn't there before, and to have the foresight to know that how important this is for students for like the long-term trajectory of eye care, right? Students are the future of the eye care profession. And then to also have to like go to bat for ocular surface disease, right? With people that are maybe holding the money and holding the the power and the official yes. And so if you think about all of that, I feel like that's true. Even maybe somebody that's in an associate position, right, that isn't necessarily the practice owner, it's like very similar, much of an, very similar, a little bit of an overlap of how sometimes you really have to show the demand for it, how it's going to be, benefit the patients, and then of course kind of create this whole new office flow, right? This whole new clinic flow, what that's like, and that's a lot of work. So major props to you for like getting that done.
It's a lot of work. And so, yeah, when I joined a private practice, I attempted to kind of go the same route. It's people that are, financially invested in something, they need to see return on investment, and they need to know that their patients are going to have good outcomes, that they're going to be healthy, that they're going to be safe, that the equipment that you're bringing in is going to bring good results, so that it brings the patients back to the regular part of the practice where they'll be happy, because nobody wants to hear that things aren't going well in their primary care exam, right? So I really utilize sort of the same philosophy: business plan, evidence, and then overall trying to solve problems for them, which is, hey, I'm going to take these patients off your hands. You're going to love it because you're not going to have to deal with these terrible refractions that are incomplete. The surgical referrals are going to go so well. You're going to be so happy. We have to go fit this patient in 15 different contact lenses before they're comfortable, when the problem never was their contact lens. And I'm going to teach you some tricks that I know that are going to be immediately applicable to you that you can try. So if you feel like the patient isn't ready for that big advanced jump into the dry eye clinic, something as easy as, hey, there's a new eye drop that will help you with blepharitis. It's super easy to prescribe, and I'm going to train the techs how to prescribe it. So if you want it, you just have to tell them and they'll do it. They'll help you. So if you can convince people you're going to make their lives easier, that's a big win. And that's how you can kind of get things started and the ball rolling.
That's awesome. Now that you're in your private practice, right? And there's other docs that do a lot of primary eye care, and then you're obviously the dry eye queen. What's the flow of that look like? So patient comes in for, like an annual comprehensive exam. Are they symptomatic? Are they not? Do they make a referral? Like what does that look like logistically?
Sure. So I have a group of doctors that know that they can always refer to me if they feel like they need some extra help with the dry eye. The doctors, it depends. I have one doctor who sees anyone with rosacea, and regardless of whether they're symptomatic or not, he will tell those patients to be like, you don't want to be one of those old people with drippy eyes, right? That's what he'll tell them. And like, I have a doctor and she can help you clean up those, super red cheeks, and you may not realize how dry you are until she actually gets with you and starts working with you. So I don't know what magic thing he says. That's what he tells me, that his old drippy eye analogy. I get a lot of referrals from that other doctor who originally came from the Midwest. So other of the internal referrals, it's, when they find that they're having issues with contact lenses that are not fitting very well. The patient's just been complaining and they keep coming in year after year, year after year, and they're like, artificial tears aren't cutting it. That's when they initiate the referral. And I definitely have plenty of referrals just from the internal doctors, but I do take external referrals and self-referrals. But I do have two main requirements to be able to, before you actually get to see me. You have to have a complete dilated eye exam, because I don't want your blurry vision to actually be cataracts and, not dry eye. Okay. So you have to have had a complete eye exam with dilation. Someone has to actually physically looked in the back of your eye. And then I need those records sent over if it's from an external source, so I can verify that that's the case, because I'm going to be focused on the front of the eye. Sometimes I'll get patients in and we know when it's not dry eye, right? All the lines are wavy, my vision is red. So
yeah, it's nice. It sounds like you've really set it up well in this clinic too, that you're educating and helping the primary care doctors manage more of that, so that really the patients who are in need of more advanced care can see you and your schedule is not as packed with, milder dry eye symptoms that can be easily remedied with some other therapies that are not so advanced. So that's good. You're setting it up perfectly, I think.
Thank you. The other thing I love to do is, if there are other fantastic dry eye doctors or lecturers that are coming to town, and I know they are, I will tell the doctors, hey, you should go listen and hear this other person. So it's not just me telling you, like, you need to hear this from somebody who's an excellent speaker. That's not me. It's kind of like if you have kids and you tell your kids something a million times, and they come home from school and they're like, guess what the teacher said? You're like, yeah, I know. I've been telling you that like forever. But if they hear it from somebody else too, that can sometimes be helpful. So every time certain people come to town, I'm like, you have to go see the speaker. You won't regret it, and you'll learn a lot from them. So that's been a really great strategy that I've used for the Might eye drop, and then the new eye drop that's going to be a neurostimulator, excuse me.
That's awesome.
And those two came down. I'm like, we've got to get all the good parents here together. It takes a village to change to change the eye care community.
It does.
Oh, that's so true. I'm in a group practice too, and so I'm glad that I'm not alone and having those same, not challenges, right? But just like situations, I guess. So that's very reassuring. With, you mentioned a couple of different new innovations that have come out. How do you stay on top of it? And how do you, we have this new drop or this new in-office treatment, and how do you start to apply it? What's your kind of protocol of how you start to kind of integrate it within your dry eye clinic?
Sure. Well, the first thing I'm always doing is I'm always reading. So I'm watching what's coming down the pipeline. I'm constantly Googling on PubMed to see what's next. Going to the big national meetings is a good start, because you can kind of walk around the posters and get an idea of like what the general trends are going to be. But also, sometimes for doctors who don't have time to go to those big national meetings, knowing where you can go online for a good resource for people that will be in the know, easy to understand. Jackie, I get your little newsletters in my email every day or every couple of days, and you are like right on top of it, like right at the forefront. So I'm like, oh, what does Jackie say is new today? So listeners, if you are not getting those emails, can you tell everybody what that platform is? Because they're really helpful.
This is like it's almost like I asked you, Jessilin and Tracy, to like tee this up. And I did not say one single word about this. It's Glance by Eyes on Eye Care is what it's called. But
there
yeah.
you go. Yes, Eyes on Eye Care, such a good source. We have a couple of younger associates, and they asked me, okay, where can I go to brush up on things? Do you have anything that's not dry eye? And so Eyes on Eye Care is one of my favorite ones. I'm also going to give a plug to Wu University. I think they're also fantastic too. Those are really great platforms with people who are excellent educators and kind of who know what's in the know. I also say, if you have an Intrepid Eye Society meeting, I mean, you and I are going to go lecture at Intrepid Eye Society, but honestly, like I'm going to go just to hear everybody else talk, because that education top notch. So those are my top 3 recommendations. But if you want something right in your inbox, there you go. No having to hunt for it. And it's up to date and it's current. And like when something is dropped, like we know the day that it is dropped.
So true. Modern Optometry also has really good
Yes.
articles. That's a really good publication. And do you guys use Open Evidence, the AI platform?
I don't, but my friend who's an ER physician told me about this, and I was like, "Oh, I've never used this. Tell us, what
I'm
is it?"
plugging that into my notes right now. Open Evidence. Here we go.
Yeah. Open Evidence, it's free if you have an NPI,
Okay.
and it's a great way to kind of source the latest information, because you know how it's tough to read everything, right? I mean, realistically, like if you were to read everything on PubMed, it's just tough to navigate. So this kind of streamlines and sources that. But we know that sometimes with AI, there's like a lot of bias, right? Like, the AI output is only as good as the data input. And so with Open Evidence, the only data that's included is like peer reviewed, so like high quality information. So really good resource for just kind of staying up to date as far as like peer reviewed articles, research, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good tip, Jessilin. Speaking of tips, we need to talk to you, Tracy, about what your life lens is. We call it the life lens here on the podcast, and it's really something in your life, does not have to be optometry related, that you feel has made your life easier, better, something you appreciate on the daily. What is your life lens, Tracy?
I've got one because I do tell my daughters this all the time. Strong people like to power through things. We like to try as hard as we possibly can. But sometimes we get to the end where you get frustrated, you don't know what to do next. And so what I tell my daughters is I'm like, okay, take a break and think to yourself, smart people ask for help.
Oh,
Smart
love that.
Smart people ask for help. So if you get to the end of what you know how to do, or you run into a really difficult patient, I mean, there's such a community of people that you can talk to who would love to help you. I mean, how many times has a colleague asked you for help and you have, and that has hurt your feelings or made you feel bad? No, you want to help that person. It makes you feel good to help somebody else. So that's why I tell people, I'm like, people want to help you. You just have to let them know that you need it, right?
It's a good tip.
Mm-hmm.
So lean into that community factor. I also think it's so interesting that when people do like longevity of life studies, the big standout stat oftentimes is how much or how involved they and like kind of like leaned into their community, right? And so I think that that's so true, regardless of whether it's eye care, personal life, whatever it is. Smart people ask for help. That's a really good life lens. That's
Oh,
good, Tracy.
that's a good one.
Tracy, if people wanted to get in touch with you after this podcast, where could they find you on like socials, or how could they get in contact with you?
So I am on Instagram. drdolleies.sec is my handle there. That's probably the fastest way to find me because I also manage some social media accounts for my daughter, so I have to constantly be on it. I am on LinkedIn. Yes, you always have to be aware of what your teenage daughters are doing. But I am on LinkedIn. It'll take me a couple more days to get to you there. Otherwise, my email is drdolleies@sunseteyeclinic.com, and I do check that very regularly. So if you want to put a link to that, that's fine. But my Instagram is probably, I would say, the fastest way to reach me at this point. Lois, I'm sorry, you guys. I can only be so many places at once.
Tracy, thank you so much for spending the evening with us and talking about all of your experience in dry eye. You're always a wealth of information. So nice to always talk to you. So thanks for spending your time.
Well, thank you both for having me on your podcast. And thanks again for making all the resources for all the what's up, in optometry right now. So thank you.